The sons of the prophets had grown in number. Their humble dwelling had become too small. So one day, they came to Elisha and said, "Let us go to the Jordan and build a larger place to live." Elisha smiled and said, "Go." Simple beginnings, a small request, but even in small plans, God's presence matters.
They journeyed to the Jordan River, where tall trees lined the banks, and the sound of rushing water filled the air. Each man began to cut down trees, eager to build. Sweat, effort, teamwork, and faith that God was in their labor.
Then it happened in a single swing. One man's axe struck the wood, and the iron head broke loose, spinning through the air and sinking deep into the river. He froze. "My master!" he cried. "It was borrowed." Panic filled his voice, not because it was costly, but because it wasn't his. Elisha turned toward him, calm, unmoved by the chaos. "Where did it fall?" he asked. The young man pointed to the spot. Elisha walked forward, broke a stick from a nearby branch, and cast it into the river. Then, before their astonished eyes, the iron rose to the surface, floating gently beside the stick. The impossible had become possible. Even iron obeyed the voice of faith. Elisha said, "Lift it out." And the young man reached out his hand and took it. No thunder, no lightning, just quiet obedience, and a miracle for a borrowed tool. Because to God, nothing is too small to matter. This small story whispers a great truth. God's concern isn't limited to kingdoms or prophets. He cares about every honest heart that cries out for help. If He can make iron float, He can lift your burdens too. Sometimes faith isn't about grand victories, but about trusting God with the small, ordinary troubles. The God of the floating axe head is the same today, still near, still caring, still able. Never think your need is too small for heaven. God notices, remembers, and responds, even when no one else does. Because the same power that raised kings also raised an axe from the water. If this story inspired you, share it, because someone may need to be reminded that God still moves in the quiet moments. This was the miracle no one talks about when iron defied gravity.